I like episodes with double sevens, and that would be today.
Lucky number 77. When we get to 777, we'll have to have like a slot machine style jackpot.
I'm sure I could do some sort of thing by 777 episodes.
Yeah, I think that'd be really good if we got that far. It's a long time.
Astronomical.
It's a really, really long time. I want to be clear.
Oh, man. It feels like yesterday I saw you.
Well, it almost was yesterday. Wait. Yeah, it was a day in between yesterday and the day that we're recording this.
Technically speaking.
Yes, only if you want to be technical about the days. The passage of time is a linear thing and such.
Yeah, it was great having you up in Orange County for a little bit. That was nice.
Yeah, I had some stuff to take care of up there. And as a consequence, got to see you and the rest of your family and some other good friends as well.
Yeah.
And we had a great time.
It was fantastic. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about it in a little bit. But did you happen to notice, because I don't think we talked about it much while you were up here, that there were 2 cars in our driveway while you were here?
I did notice, but I didn't say anything at the time because we were talking about other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, man?
Well, the one minivan thing is a rental because of the.
I assumed that was what was up with that one.
The aforementioned destruction of our vehicle.
See previous episode where we talked about it.
Uh-huh. The other one is a new purchase of a new to us electric vehicle.
Oh, wow. So
yeah.
all electric, correct?
All electric, plugs into our house.
Okay. So the question that I'm sure everyone has asked you about this car, which I will now do dutifully as the person, is what is the range? Right? Because isn't that the thing? Like, how far can you go with it?
Yeah, and it's unlike a gasoline vehicle, it is a more complicated question than you would hope to answer.
Right.
I can give you a flat number and say that you're safe assuming 40 miles.
Okay.
But it's like that means you're driving flat out on the freeway.
Which you're not, of course.
Right. And you're not doing any regenerative braking, etc. If you drive the city and you try and keep the car a little bit below topped off and all these sorts of things, tricks you can do. There's an eco mode. You can, you really get thrifty up to like 55, 60. And that's with a 5-year-old battery in the car.
And this is miles.
Yes.
Okay. So like round trip or like out and back?
Full tank.
Okay. So topped up, whatever, you get 50 miles to get there and back.
Sure.
And I think that's probably, I would say, within the range of where most people live and work.
Correct, which is the exact purpose the car is supposed to fulfill.
It can run down to the market and come back, no problem. It can stop at the market on the way back from work or something like that.
No problem.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, how is it going so far?
I have described it as a very nice tool. It's like if you bought yourself the best drill at the Home Depot, right?
Sometimes that's a good feeling. That's a really good feeling.
Right. Yeah. I don't have the same mental attachment to it. I don't get in it and think, wow, this is a nice car. But I do get in it and think, like, I'm very happy to be driving this currently.
Nice. So it feels good, like the actual act of driving?
It drives well. It's much more spacious than the old Scion we used to have.
That car was small, to be clear. That was a very small Scion. Having sat in the back seat of it, it's small.
This is a normal-sized vehicle with an actual functional trunk. And it drives well. It does not drive poorly. It, accelerates because it's an electric vehicle. But it also gives you a good feeling, I think, because I think about the car that I actually like, that we're going to eventually get back, and like not jumping on that to go on little errands and, putting miles on it for people to go to and from work, where we can put miles on what essentially amounts to like it's not a beater, but you could like say it is, right? Because the motor is going to last forever.
But you can treat it kind of that way, right? Where you just be like, I just need to make a short trip. I'm going to take this.
Yeah.
Boop, boop, come back. Don't feel bad about depreciating your expensive car or whatever.
Right, exactly.
Nice. Well, that's rad, man. I'm very happy for you.
Yeah, so took the opportunity with the unfortunate circumstance currently to try and make our lives a little easier with all the craziness going on.
Awesome. Awesome.
What'd you do with your one day back in San Diego?
First, before I get into that, I have to issue a slight apology.
Oh, is this a redaction?
This is a redaction from a previous statement that was made by me. I described the pumpkins that were being produced here by my significant other as disappointing, and that's not true. They are not disappointing. She is very happy with them, excited that they're happening at all. She did not believe it was going to work at all, so the fact that we're getting even small, tiny ones is good. So good for her, and good for her for calling me out for not getting it right. But our one day back here, we didn't get too much done. It was a Sunday, so there was a lot of football watched.
Yeah,
as there typically is, I think, in your household as well.
It's lighter these days, but mainly because of the cable situation. So if things on TV aren't any good,
well, we don't have fancy cable or fancy football cable anyway over here either. So we're just watching over the air.
Let's say I didn't keep the Bronco game on very long.
Well, let's say I also stopped watching it about halfway through.
Oh no,
it was boring and bad. Anyway, we'll get back to that later when we get back to Rantasy Football, I think.
Yeah.
Because we have other stuff to talk about this year. Well, we definitely have other stuff to talk about this year, but also today. And it might be time for us to introduce a special guest, maybe?
Okay, so we were vague about it, but here he is, as always on the interesting Nintendo news and updates podcast. We have to have Michael.
Hey guys. It's good to be...
Oh, sorry, buddy.
I was just going to say it's good to be back.
Yeah, returning guest.
I know.
Friend of the show status.
Seriously. Guest anchor?
Achievement
Guest
unlocked.
Potter? I'm sure he has the most appearances at this point, right?
Yeah, I think so. Right? Is this 2 or 3 for him?
This is
3.
2. I think this is just 2. I think we did the ukulele episode, and that was the only one.
Oh, I thought we had a Nintendo one before that. Maybe I'm wrong.
Well, whatever.
I'm going to cut all this part out now anyway.
Hey!
Welcome to the production minute.
Yeah, there you go. There's been a lot of Nintendo stuff coming up. I haven't been able to keep up with it, but you guys actually have gotten way ahead of me on this. As we've mentioned before, JJ, you got a little box in the mail, 2 of them actually, and have been playing it. And Michael, you got a little box in the mail, not of the same color, and have been playing it. How are you both finding your SNES Minis? And I want to hear you guys bounce some complaints off each other and see if they actually matter. Because I heard... let me start it off. This weekend, we were both talking. We were all 3 of us talking, because Michael was here too. You have to have that little thing next to you still. I thought we fixed that problem.
Nope. Still need it next to you.
But they made longer cords.
Yep. So that just means that your TV can be farther away, but the box still needs to be next to you. Because if you want to access the save state functionality, or indeed just stop playing one game and go to a different game, you need to hit the physical reset button on the console, just like you did back in the olden days.
Nintendo often tries to get people to like exercise or stand up every hour or something like that. Do you think that may be what they did there?
I don't know, because I definitely use it a lot more frequently than once every hour.
I feel like it backfires on them sometimes too, because it's like, well, I could save state it here, but then I'd have to get up and walk over to the TV. May as well keep going.
Oh, I see. Mm-hmm.
So I actually do have it near me for that reason. So like my room that I have it in is small. The TV is not that far away. And I sit in my chair pretty close to where the thing is. And then I just like lean over and tap the button. Because, look, some of these games are hard.
Truth.
How many games? Let's start off with a competition. How many games have you played more than a little bit? Not just booted up to see, like, oh yeah, Excite Bike's cool. Like I did on my 3DS when I got it.
Not on there.
I know, but that's what I did on my 3DS. I was like, Excite Bike's awesome, and then I didn't really do anything with it.
Let's see. More than like just a little bit. I think I've really only played one.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. And I'm going to guess from the pictures that I have seen that our one game is the same one game.
Yes, I think both Michael and I have played a bunch of Super Mario World.
Just like straight up like Mario World all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
We talked about it a little bit before, but I had been playing through it. I got all the way to the end the long way, not by using the Star Road or anything. Which was fun because I maybe feel like some of those levels, did I ever play some of them? Do you remember the dinosaurs that breathe fire in Mario World? I sure didn't.
Oh, yeah, the Chocolate Islands.
Yeah, that was a place I had not been in a real long time. So, it was fun to go back and see that stuff. Yeah, I was save stating pretty liberally because it turns out that when you're not like going back and collecting a bunch of 1-ups and capes and Yoshis and stuff, that some of those levels are kind of tough if all you are is like little Mario at the start.
Yeah, how's your timing, JJ?
I'll say it's better now that I've gotten through. But it wasn't great to start off with, that's for sure.
Yeah, there was definitely a knocking the rust off period for me.
Yeah, it's like, which of these? Oh, right, there's 2 jump buttons and one spins and one doesn't, and then like falling into the pit over and over as you fail to press it correctly, and that sort of thing. I don't think.
Did you find yourself, either of you, really like struggling going back to such an old design on a controller?
No, actually, and I thought about that right before I booted it up for the first time. I had the thought, just sort of randomly, I wonder how familiar the controller is going to feel in my hands. Because it was the Super Nintendo was the first system I had, and, I played the living daylights out of that thing. And sure enough, sitting down, they got the feel just right.
The controller definitely feels like I remember them, and to be clear, I did not have a Super Nintendo growing up, but I did play it quite a bit of it, in college and later at other people's houses and stuff. So I didn't necessarily own one myself, but I've played a good bit of it since. And yeah, it definitely feels like one of those. The controller feels vastly similar. And it's not like, the games were all designed for use with the D-pad and stuff, so you didn't really feel like you're missing anything in terms of like, oh, there's no analog stick here or something, except for when I played Star Fox for about 10 minutes. That game felt bad.
Is it because Star Fox, the original, is bad?
That could be why, yes. There's a very good chance that that's the reason.
Has either of you gotten deeply into Star Fox 2, the huge draw of the system?
I have not booted up the first one, and they have made the second one locked until you beat, I believe it's the first level of Star Fox 1.
Right.
Correct. So I said that I played the first one for about 10 minutes. That was how long it took me to beat the first level, which I did, and then Star Fox 2 unlocked, which I then booted up just to see. It's weird. It's very different. From what I could see, it is almost like a, how do you even describe it? It's like a run-based game. Like there's a timer that counts down that's running constantly while you're in battles and stuff, and you're trying to defend Corneria, the planet, from the invading forces of Andross. There's a bunch of like some sort of animated cutscene stuff in the front of it. Not really animated, but like, there's a lot more animation and stuff in it showing the characters and stuff a lot more prominently than, for instance, was in the original Star Fox. And it's a weird game. Like you're selecting while the enemy forces are moving at you kind of in like a tower defense-ish kind of way, you can move your guys to intercept them, and then you go into a Star Fox battle against their ships or whatever. A really weird game, really strange. Like it was coming out on the Super Nintendo at a point that the PlayStation was already out.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's why. And then Nintendo 64 was coming out very soon when this would have released. This is kind of why they canned it. Man, it is a weird game, like very weird. But I did not get through much more than like a couple battles in that.
Didn't pique your interest, huh?
Given that I didn't like much of the first one, when it kind of builds from there, it didn't really strike me that much.
That's rough.
Do you have any interest in Star Fox, Michael?
I will definitely play through the first one, at least to see what it's like, because I never played it originally. And then, check out the second one, just because of all the hype surrounding an unreleased game in the States.
Yeah,
it's so funny to me. Like that's the draw, and 2 out of 2 of you are kind of like, I'll check it out eventually.
I mean, it's it's weird to think, but like this is the release of this game, right? Star Fox 2. Like it could conceivably some outlet could give it Game of the Year of 2017 because this is the first year that it was out.
That's never going to happen, right?
A Super Nintendo game. Now, that won't ever happen because this has probably been a very good year for video games in terms of other released games. But still, it's possible.
Yeah, I think part of the issue is that for me, the draw of the whole thing was the nostalgia, right? And that's how they marketed it, as
Definitely.
Go back and play these games from your childhood. Well, they never released Star Fox 2 here in the States, so it wasn't part of my childhood.
Oh, they didn't release it anywhere. It wasn't just here in the States. It never came out.
Oh, I thought they had released it in Japan.
Nope, no one has ever seen this game before. So that is the double crazy part.
Wow, okay.
I think Michael's point is still true, though. The draw of it is, hey, do you remember like holding this controller and this little system and playing these games, when you were a kid? Now you can do that again in a very easy-to-do way with some like fun bells and whistles on the side.
I find myself wondering if I had the love for the Super Nintendo enough to go chase that thing down. Maybe just plug in the one that I still have, obviously. But it seems like it's definitely still taking off in popularity. They restock them constantly at the store now.
Yeah, it sounds like they actually are restocking them as well, which is good to hear. So that there might be a chance that people could get them actually, unlike the original Nintendo ones.
So that's Nintendo making a good business decision, right?
The first time in who knows how long.
Can we talk about the immediate backslide into a bad business decision that I saw today?
Oh,
I haven't heard this.
So Michael was kind enough to warn me that the 4 new Zelda Champion amiibos were online at Amazon for pre-order, and I went and grabbed them, and on the top of the page in a huge banner is the new Amazon exclusive Nintendo 3DS XL.
okay.
It looks
They finally did come out with one, huh? So they did come out with one of these that looked like a Super Famicom in Japan, which is what it looked like in the EU and and in Japan, with the clearly superior design. But now it seems that for some reason they are giving the U.S. design to the U.S. customers, which I guess makes some sense.
Mm-hmm. Just look at the top of this thing and try not to induce vomiting.
Is this... Ew, that's not great. It looks cool when you unfold it all the way. That's all...
so it'll look cool to everyone except for you, who will be staring at the other side of it.
No. It won't look cool to anyone because the people staring at it will be looking at it upside down.
That is also true.
Also true.
Yep.
Yeah, it's not that great. Also, the front of it, just like the part you actually do look at, looks bad. I'm just going to say, this is not a good look of this on the front.
Nope. So they took a system that sales are flagging, made an Amazon exclusive version with a free game, and slapped on what looks to be a bad version of a Super Nintendo sticker upside down.
I mean,
DOA? Anybody?
the 3DS is already pretty dead, right? So
What is going to make me laugh about this is when parents who don't know much about Nintendo are told by their kids that all they want is an SNES Classic, and they go out and accidentally buy this instead.
oh, I didn't think about that. That seems like it will happen.
Almost guaranteed, right?
I feel like it has to happen to someone.
If you're really cynical, you must think like, did they do it on purpose?
Because this is way more expensive than what a NES Classic would be, right?
Right?
Yeah.
But
who knows?
like, you know, maybe they just don't care. They're just throwing it out for people who want to collect, because really what they want you to do is they want you to buy a Nintendo Switch with Super Mario Odyssey, right?
Right?
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
No, I mean, it's not. I want to play it. All the videos I've seen of that thing, I want to play.
I think the Nintendo Switch looks like it's going to be quite the beast. I mean, they've already got the Rabbids, which got great rave reviews. They've got Breath of the Wild, which got rave reviews. This hat game is getting really, really good reviews.
Yeah,
So we're back on track with them making good decisions.
There we go. We brought it around full circle.
Good job, Nintendo.
Eventually.
But that's not the only new-ish game that I want to hear about. I want to hear about Metroid, Michael, because you just went on a, let's say, a long trip. I don't know if you want to say more than that.
Sure. Yeah, I'll say more than that. Just got married a couple of months ago.
There were some congratulations given here.
Yes. Thank you for that. We were very excited, and then we left the States for a little while. Saw a little bit of the world, but inherent in that was plenty of time spent on airplanes. And so to pass some of the downtime, right before we left, I picked up a copy of Metroid Samus Returns.
Which is now, let me, if I remember correctly, this Super Metroid 2?
Yes, for the Game Boy.
So this is a complete redo. They're not just like making a Game Boy game for the 3DS, right? This is just a new thing.
No, it's almost completely a new game. It follows the same storyline as the original, but it has been to call it a reskin would be to sell it short.
Okay, it's a brand new thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So I know you guys have gone into a little bit of the term Metroidvania before, and you've touched on the Castlevania side of things.
A lot of Vania.
Yes.
Mostly Vania.
So Metroid is similar in that it is also a 2D platformer, side-scrolling. You've got a map of areas that you can explore. You collect abilities as you go through the game that help you unlock different areas of the map that weren't reachable before. And you have an objective, usually destroying some sort of alien force. So in this game, there are the Metroids, which were a bioengineered weapon that have outlived their creators and gone rogue. So you, as bounty hunter Samus Aran, are sent in to exterminate all of them.
Cool.
So that's basic.
That's the setup for every Metroid game, right? Basically,
Yes.
more or less.
More or less, the invading horde might differ from game to game, but the premise is always the same. This one, though, they made some interesting changes to the mechanics. So the Metroid games in the past have been very much shoot 'em up. You run around, you point your blaster. In the 2D ones, you got 8 directions, cardinal compass directions, that you could aim in, and you'd fire at anything that moved, essentially, that wasn't you. And you got different weapon upgrades that let you do different things. Some let you fire multiple beams. You got an ice beam that could freeze enemies, and you could use them as platforms. You'd eventually get a beam that would pass through walls, so you could open up doors that you couldn't physically reach yet. And then you got a complement of missiles and bombs that did various things. Samus Returns is cool because it keeps the missiles and the bombs concept, the different beams, but it has implemented essentially a targeting circle where now you hold down one of the right triggers and you stop moving. And instead of controlling your character, now the joystick, you can spin it in a full 360-degree circle and fire wherever you're pointing.
Oh.
So you have a lot more flexibility, but you have to learn how to balance aiming and movement.
A lot of watching Metroid speedruns is, like Samus is midair shooting at an exact one of the 8 directional angles.
Yes.
Do you think that gives you a lot more aerial control?
It definitely does. I think it takes a little bit more work to get used to it, especially if you've played a lot of the old style where you're used to just getting those 8 directions, but it also is a little bit more forgiving, especially later in the game when you get wider spread weapons. You don't have to aim perfectly to hit what you're shooting at.
Oh, that's interesting. So they give you completely different, shots as well. It's like, I feel like in the other Metroid games, you sort of get, powers that let you drop a bomb or roll up into a ball. But I don't ever remember them really messing too much with your main blaster.
They did somewhat in Super Metroid, the one for the Super Nintendo. And a lot of the weapons actually follow the same upgrade progression as Super Metroid, and this game actually is a direct prequel to that.
Oh, it's a prequel?
Yes.
In terms of the story. Interesting.
Yes, in terms of storyline, the first 3 games are all direct, sequentially, one after another. But they definitely implemented some new mechanics that I really like in this. In Super Metroid, there was a mechanic called shine sparking, and if you've ever watched a Super Metroid speedrun, you know what it is. You get a power up that you start running, and then your character will glow, and at that point you can crouch down and you'll be powered up, and you jump, and right after that tap one of the directional buttons, and you will fly in that direction until you hit a wall you can't break or you run out of energy. And it's a way to move very quickly through rooms, destroy your way through obstacles that can't be destroyed in any other way. And it was a little temperamental on the Super Nintendo. It was very easy to jump and push in the wrong direction and just slam into a wall rather than through the blocks that you're trying to break. So they've completely done away with that mechanic, and they have added a new mechanic where your power bombs, which when you roll up into a ball, you can drop bombs. You get upgraded bombs later in the game, and if you drop a power bomb and cling to the surface that you dropped it on, it will launch you in a straight line until you hit another wall.
Oh, that's a cool way to solve it. So it's like you get a couple seconds before the bomb goes off, and you can sort of line everything up to where you want it.
Exactly. And they make use of it really well in the game. One of the cooler mechanics that they added, in my opinion, is the ability to counterattack. So in these games in the past, you basically are shooting at everything as fast as you can to destroy it. Some enemy units will continue to move in their normal pattern. Some will register that you're there and attack you. In this game, just about everything will attack you and start coming at you. But they added a mechanic where if you time it right, you can tap one of the buttons and produce a shield in front of you in the direction that the enemy is coming from, and it will stun them and knock them back. And it has a couple of beneficial side effects. So if you time it right and stun them, they release extra energy for you to power up your depleted energy bar. And in addition, it auto-targets your weapon circle at them. So if you're standing still and something charges at you, you hit the counterattack button, it stuns them and knocks them back, and then you just tap attack and it auto-fires right at them.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
So that kind of helps the speedrunner not being able to time everything perfectly?
Yes, yeah, you can definitely stun something and then just keep running past it.
Yeah, I imagine in general a speedrunner is not going to engage with any of the combat unless they absolutely need to.
Right.
But it gives them the chance to, since they can't memorize a pattern perfectly every time, it gives them a chance to keep moving if they don't need to.
Yep, and you can actually time it off of a sound cue too. So even if you're not paying attention or can't see what it is that's coming at you, you'll hear it.
I mean, it just definitely seems like a feature that's designed for that kind of responsiveness, right? Like, because like a sound cue or being able to deflect shots, not really entirely necessary.
No, not at all.
It sounds like they added it to give you sort of another option for when monsters get right up next to you. Mm-hmm. Because at least in Super Metroid, which is, to be fair, the only one I've played, if you get next to a monster, basically your job is to now run away from that monster and shoot at it while you're running away because there's nothing else you can do to it. Other than like drop a bomb on it or something. Like you just need to get away so that you can keep shooting. So having like a melee option kind of, or melee counter, I guess, is a cool idea.
They rely on it kind of heavily in the early game, but as the game goes on and you gain more powerful offensive options, it becomes up to you how much you use it. There are definitely times when it will make your life easier. The boss fights are kind of geared to being much more manageable if you have the counterattacks down.
Right on.
That's cool.
Yeah. This is also one of the first DS games that I have heard about that actually locks some content behind Amiibo.
Now, actually locks content or locks, like, additions to the content? Like, are you going to miss story? Are you going to miss anything?
In this case, there is... So you don't miss story. The game is complete as it is. However, you can unlock 2 additional backup energy reserves. So if you run out of energy, it auto-refills a portion of your health. And 2 backup missile reserves that do the same with your missiles. You run out, it auto-refills a portion of them. It also unlocks an additional suit from one of the Wii games, I believe. And there is artwork that you can unlock without it. Not all of the artwork, but some of the artwork. And an additional hard mode, I believe, that you also need one of the amiibos to unlock.
And they've started to do that in other games, like these new amiibos that are coming out in Breath of the Wild, give you some pretty crazy stuff. We've just spent last week talking, JJ, about like DLC versus these kind of other paid microtransaction systems in Shadow of War. Mm-hmm. Do you think if Amiibo ends up being essentially a version of microtransactions? I mean, I know you're kind of anti-Amiibo to begin with, but
right.
My reaction to it is like at least you get something that you can put on your shelf as well.
So that's an argument, but so the stuff he was talking about, at least in terms of the missile tanks and the energy tanks, those are things that you can get in the game as well. It's not like that's the only way to get them, or they're giving you a boost, right, by using them from wherever you want. But it's not like they're impossible to get in the game. Those are things that the game has. The suit, I don't know if it's just a cosmetic thing or if it has some kind of powers or anything attached to it, Michael?
I couldn't tell you about the suit. With the energy tanks, though, there aren't reserves in the game otherwise. You have however much energy you have managed to collect and power up, and then that's it. If you run out, game over.
Oh, okay. So there are not, like, tanks like there were in Super Metroid where you could use and refill.
There are not. Okay.
Well, that's kind of lame. And the hard mode actually seems like the lamest one of these things, where that's an actual, if you really want to play on a difficult mode to make the game challenging, then locking that away behind essentially a $15 purchase of a piece of plastic that seems really silly to me.
Well, I should probably clarify that there are apparently 2 different hard modes, and I'm not sure what the flavor difference is between the 2 of them. One of them you can unlock normally just by beating the game. The other one you need the amiibo for. So it's not totally blocked off from the casual player, but it is tiered. That's my understanding.
And I don't have any issue with them locking a mode behind, you beat the game once to unlock this or something. That seems very normal. I don't have any issue with that. But and again, I haven't played the game, so it's hard to say. I would just prefer they not do stuff like this. I don't see so much of an issue with the missile tanks or the energy, but that kind of sucks. If someone really wants to get into it and wants a lot of a challenge, like, you should let them play it. Why not? I mean, I don't see the reason.
Maybe what if you did, like, okay, if you buy the amiibo, you get the hard mode, right? So that's $15 or whatever. Or you can just buy the hard mode for $8.
Yeah,
like a DLC unlock.
Sure, and they've done that for 3DS games before. The Fire Emblem games had unlockable stuff, quests and things that you could buy, or characters or classes. That seems relatively common in games. I just don't understand the idea of locking a difficulty mode behind an amiibo, because in your example, Andrew, I doubt that many people would choose to pay the $8 there. You
Sure.
would be the only people like me who are like very anti-amiibo would ever choose to do that. And even then, probably not, right?
People also do, borrow amiibos.
Totally.
You just have to tap it once, right, Michael? So
Yes, you tap it once and it's unlocked.
I don't know. Like, I just don't want them to start doing this with every game, right? Where they're like, oh, now here's a hard mode locked behind this amiibo, and since there's 50 freaking thousand amiibos or whatever, there's like, oh, each one has a special interesting thing locked behind it. This one is a hat that lets you fly, and this one is a mask that gives you invisibility, and this one, it's like all this stuff. Like, why? Don't stop.
So in sort of the long term, I am helped by the amiibo that I do have. So similar to what Andy has done with deciding all I want are the Zelda-themed amiibo, I decided pretty early on I'm going to collect the amiibo from the Smash game, which they originally started coming out with, and when I've got them all, I'm going to stop. And I have the last 3 sitting right next to me on the desk right now, actually. So as far as I'm concerned, my amiibo collection is complete. But the nice thing about Smash is that Nintendo threw everybody into that game. So I have 2 Metroid amiibos sitting right here on the shelf. And, I have Pac-Man and Mega Man and Sonic and Captain Falco, and I have amiibo from just about every game line that Nintendo could put out that I might want to play. And sure, they might release more that do different things, but the collection that I have amassed is pretty good for unlocking at least partial content.
Well, usually it's the main character from the game, and the main character from the game probably gets the best unlock.
Buy the Super Mario Odyssey Wedding Mario amiibo or whatever, and then he gives you a really cool top hat or something.
Yep, but I bet you that the Mario and the Peach and the Bowser that I have will still unlock something that isn't terrible.
I mean, they'll unlock something because you have them, right? Like they want to give you something, but
right, exactly. They do try to make the investment that you made somewhat worthwhile.
Right.
They're trying. The total doesn't add up for me, and that's fine. As long as you enjoy the thing as the thing, then it's fine. You don't even need to justify it beyond that. If you like the statues as what they are, then that's the justification right there. Anything else is gravy.
Yep. So yeah, the end of the game got to be a little brutal, let's say. And I was definitely glad of the unlockables. It saved me from having to do quite as much pattern memorization. I don't know if you touched on that, JJ, when you've done some of your dives into Castlevania, but I think Metroidvania games are kind of famous for boss patterns.
So at least in the castle side of the Vania, most of those games allow you to level up and, just sort of, you can kind of overpower content that way.
Okay.
If you don't want to learn the patterns of a boss or, figure out how to dodge all the attacks, you can eventually just sort of brute force your way through it by being 5 levels higher than him or whatever.
Fair enough.
And I know you can't do that in a Metroid, so I imagine the learning aspect there becomes a much bigger deal.
Yes. The bosses earlier on are more forgiving of you not learning the patterns. They don't deal the same amount of damage, but by the end of the game, the developers have decided, okay, you're going to learn the pattern or you are just going to die.
Well, by the end, you should be good at the game, right?
Yeah, you should be. And so the last stretch was, very difficult. I very much enjoyed it, though. I think they did a good job of making it difficult to the point that you feel a sense of accomplishment when you finish.
You mean because you didn't feel accomplished with a Super Nintendo original game? Like it was just kind of over, or?
No, but I feel like in the Super Nintendo version, if you went out of your way to collect enough missile upgrades and to get all of the weapon upgrades, it was easier at the end of the game to beat the boss. In this one, you have to collect all of the weapon upgrades to progress to the end of the game, which was not the case in the Super Nintendo. And so they know how leveled up your character is going to be, and the boss is designed to still be difficult for you.
There's not that extra wiggle room that you can get. Interesting.
Right. So when you finish, you definitely feel like, I did something here, and I wasn't just relying on overwhelming firepower.
Well, that sounds like a good time.
A worthy new addition to the series, kind of in a way, right?
Yes, yeah, I think that this was a very good reboot. Fans have really been clamoring for a new Metroid game for a long time now. And the announcement of this was paired, actually, I believe, with the announcement of a new Metroid coming next year for the Switch. Cool. This title dropped just a month or so after the announcement, and I think it laid the groundwork really well for them to build into whatever Switch title they put out.
Oh, so please, more Prime games.
So, yeah, that's my suspicion, is that they are not going to... It will not be a 2D side-scrolling type game.
That's all right. I'm good with more Prime games.
That's not what I want.
They're so good, though.
I would actually really like to see them give the same treatment that they gave to this game in rebooting it to Super Metroid. I think if they were to retool some of the Super Metroid mechanics to incorporate some of the additions from this game, it could be a lot of fun.
I feel like they were safe to mess with not Super Metroid, right? Like if you start messing with Super Metroid, everybody's gonna complain about everything.
Yeah, that's gonna be tough. You're remaking a classic there, and that's always fraught with danger anytime you start touching, the classics.
This is true.
So
right.
that's good.
I got to cut in because on my other monitor I've been watching the end of the other game that was happening today. And Michael, you're in one of the fantasy football leagues with us.
Oh, here we go. Yes, I am.
I said last week, JJ, I think it's my redemption time in our league.
Is it?
I think it's been proven pretty much accurate.
Okay.
But I needed to vent about a situation that just happened in the only other league that I play in, and you guys will probably appreciate this for a second. I had Kirk Cousins playing tonight, and I was down like 8 points. And all he had left was Jordan Reed, the tight end for the Washington Redskins, who's gotten like 30 yards a game, maybe, the entire season. So I need Jordan Reed to get his 3 points and Kirk Cousins do his normal thing and get like 20 points, and then I win the game. What I don't need is for Kirk Cousins to throw 2 touchdowns to Jordan Reed and lose by 20 points.
Ooh.
Rough.
What the actual fantasy football?
Yeah. So, this is clearly we've moved into the Rantasy Football section.
I'm sorry, the Monday night game just ended and I just about threw stuff around the room while you were trying to finish talking about Super Metroid, and now it's got to happen.
That's a bummer. I'm sorry that happened to you. I will relate an episode that happened to me this week in one of the leagues that I'm playing in. Andrew, what would you say is the most points you've ever seen someone score in fantasy football?
I believe you talked about scoring 150 previously.
That's a lot.
In your league this year. In my leagues, I've probably ever seen people top out at like 160, and I just saw a 151 last week, but that's about it.
Yeah, so like 150, 160 is high, right?
That's really high.
That's a lot of points. I scored in a league this week 132 and lost to the person who scored 192.
You are in some sort of joke league if you can get that many points.
Nope.
How many teams?
12 teams.
No.
Yes.
PPR?
Yeah, half PPR.
Okay.
But, it's pretty easy to get so many points when you start Ezekiel Elliott, who got 147 yards, 2 rushing TDs, and 72 receiving yards, and Amari Cooper, who got 210 yards, 2 receiving TDs, and 11 catches. That's a lot.
Yeah,
Both of those guys scored 40 points.
I mean, that's like 5 points extra right there just from catches. See, that's one of the reasons I don't like PPR.
Okay. Andrew, he got 35 without the catches, okay? That's still a lot. He would take the catches away, the person still has 185. That's a lot.
Yeah,
the numbers are insane. This person just has, every person on their team has 2 TDs, I think. Obviously not the kicker, but their defense also got 22 points. What?
I'm telling you though, man, this is my 3rd win. I'm clawing my way back in. I think I'm in 4th now. I'm not. No, I'm not in 4th. Well, maybe I am. Yep, I'll be in 4th.
Michael and I played each other this week.
Yes.
I believe I believe the phrase that JJ coined was "race to the bottom."
Yeah, it was not a good week for really either of our teams, to be clear.
The guy in second can't race to the bottom. Although,
well,
I want to
mention
something right off the bat, and this is one of the reasons we were going to talk Rantasy Football. Your quarterbacks together combined for less than 10 points.
Yes, they did.
Yep, my own tight end got more points than my quarterback. My kicker got more points than my quarterback.
I've never seen that in my life.
I mean,
First of all, very often quarterbacks one quarterback gets more than 10 points. I don't like that's bad.
10 points is a low number for your quarterback. You want more. In my quarterback's defense this week, he was injured in the second or third quarter of the game, and basically didn't play after that. So
he broke his left arm.
Yeah, and will probably be out for 8 weeks or something.
What's Cam Newton's problem?
I don't know that I could tell you. He was the best player on the field for the Bears this weekend.
Hey.
So actually, I read a pretty amazing stat, and if you took this in a vacuum, you would make assumptions about a game. So Carolina this weekend set a new franchise record by allowing 5 first downs, and they tied another record by only allowing 4 completions. But they lost by 14.
So, how did the other team score?
2 70-plus yard defensive touchdowns.
Yeah.
So both of the interceptions were pick sixes.
No, one was a scoop
interception.
one was a scoop and score, and one was a pick six by the same player.
Oh my god, awful!
Not good.
That's rough. I mean, I guess great for whoever started that defense, but yikes!
No one started the Bears defense.
Okay, it's the Bears. Yeah, that's correct. No one would play them.
Oh man, I could not believe watching your two game develop. It was almost not fun to watch, but also kind of fun to watch.
It's definitely not fun to live through.
I was really pulling for you, Michael. JJ's in second. We were trying to take him down again. He's getting too close to the top over there.
Yeah. Oh, it's going to be tough for me to get close to the top when the guy who's in first is scoring 110 on the regular.
Yeah, he started Stephon Diggs and still broke 100 this week.
That's bad for us.
Yeah,
not a good look.
I think what we're hoping for now is that Ezekiel Elliott's suspension to come through.
Look, man, he started freaking Kirk Cousins and he won his game. That's all I have to say. You know what? Hold on.
He also has Carson Wentz, by the way.
Let's clarify this scenario. The person that did the Jordan reading to my Kirk Cousins is John, who got Kirk Cousins in our league and won his game.
Yeah, well, his opponent doesn't have Jordan Reed, so that's part of the reason.
Erg. Oh, well.
Actually, if his opponent had Jordan Reed, would he have beaten him?
The main problem is we can't let him go from worst to first. You guys, we got to do something.
Yeah.
No, that's right. He did come in last year, didn't he?
Yep.
No, worst to first. All right. That's it. I can't take any more.
All right.
Michael?
Well, before Andrew explodes, we should let Michael go.
Yes. It was good having you on again. As always, our Nintendo-centric episodes.
It's always a pleasure, you guys.
And that's the end. JJ.
Well, if you want to hear, send me hot fantasy football tips so I can use them to defeat Andrew and Michael in future weeks. You can send those to podcast@weweregamers.com. You can also check out our Facebook page, our Twitter, our Instagram, all of which is We Were Gamers. Go ahead and look us up on all those things. We didn't even really get to talk about the sweet board game night that we had.
No, we'll have to do a special return to talk about some board game.
Maybe we'll do a board game episode sometime in the future. And it was a pleasure having you, Michael. And folks, listen up, subscribe, follow, all that stuff.